Standing outside Tactical Solutions Pro Shop, Sarah Mitchell steadied her breathing, a 3-year symphony of therapy and meditation culminating in this single, resonant moment. The nightmares of explosions and Captain Reynolds' voice on the radio still haunted her nights, but the encrypted drive in her pocket was her shield, a testament to 3 years of silent, dogged investigation. Her reflection in the store window was a stranger, blonde hair instead of military brown, soft features where war-hardened edges used to be. But beneath the carefully constructed civilian surface, Ghost 6 waited. The store was a fortress of masculinity, a place where cops, federal agents, and military contractors shopped. Expertise was currency here, and Sarah, dressed in faded jeans and a plain t-shirt, knew she was about to enter at the bottom of its rigid hierarchy. In a corner, feigning interest in a magazine, sat James Reynolds, the man who had put a bullet through her name and called it justice. She pushed through the heavy glass door, her quiet request for something specific barely cutting through the din mic. The head clerk and a former cop saw exactly what she wanted him to see. A lost girl in over her head. His laughter was immediate and genuine when she specified a need for an advanced tactical rifle. "Sweetheart, maybe start with something pink," he suggested, his voice dripping with condescension. The amusement was infectious, and other customers smirked as Mike lectured her on starter weapons, joking that her boyfriend must have sent her as a prank. Sarah stood silent, an island of stillness in their ocean of mockery, her gaze cataloging faces and exits. In the corner, Reynolds shifted uncomfortably. He had seen that stillness before in places where flinching meant death. As her questions grew more specific, twist rates, mil-dot calculations, his magazine lowered. He was no longer reading, he was watching. The theater of condescension reached its peak when Mike, playing to the crowd, pulled a pink hunting rifle from the wall. "Here's something more your speed," he cooed. The crowd roared, but for the first time, a muscle in Sarah's jaw tightened. Reynolds saw it and began to rise. That's when her voice, quiet but sharp as a blade, cut through the laughter. "I need to see the Barrett M82A1. The silence that followed was absolute. The full designation, spoken without hesitation, was not movie knowledge. It was military hardware. Reynolds froze mid-step, his face draining of color. Tom, the store's Vietnam veteran manager, emerged from his office, drawn by the weapon's name and the way she'd said it, like an old friend. "Miss," he began, his voice gravelly with authority. "That's a very specific request." He looked at her, truly looked, and Sarah saw the moment recognition dawned. "What's your name, miss?" he asked, though he already suspected. "Sarah Mitchell," she replied, and from across the store came the sharp clatter of Reynolds dropping his magazine. "Mitchell?" Tom whispered, his face now a mask of disbelief. "As in Ghost 6, Mitchell. You're supposed to be dead." For the first time, a sad smile touched Sarah's lips. "Officially, I am." The crowd, once a jeering mob, was now a captivated audience. Reynolds, trapped between the stunned onlookers and the door, fumbled for an excuse to leave. His eyes met Sarah's, and in that instant, he knew the hunt was over. Tom, trying to make sense of the scene, grabbed his phone. "Colonel Martinez is still at Fort Bragg," he said, his hands shaking. "He'll remember Ghost 6. Tom dialed, putting the call on speaker. A gruff voice answered, "Martinez." When Tom explained who was in his store, the silence on the other end was heavy with shock. "That's impossible," the colonel finally said. "Ghost 6 Mitchell is dead. I was at her memorial service. I handed a flag to her mother. The challenge hung in the air. Put her on the phone. Now." Sarah took the phone, her voice calm. "Hello, Colonel." The sob that cracked through the speaker was that of a hardened commander who had just seen a ghost. "Jesus Christ, Sarah. We buried you." His voice then filled with the awe of a man recounting a miracle, painting a picture for the stunned onlookers of Operation Nightfall. He told them how Ghost 6, Sarah Mitchell, had single-handedly held off 200 insurgents for 6 hours to save 47 American lives. He spoke of her as the greatest sniper he'd ever known, a legend who made a shot that physics said was impossible. He described her last stand on that ridge in Syria, fighting with a collapsed lung and internal bleeding, her final transmission a promise. "Tell my team I held the line." Mike's face had gone white, the magnitude of his foolishness crashing down on him. Reynolds, meanwhile, had sunk into a chair, his body trembling uncontrollably. The colonel's sermon of heroism shifted to a darker tone. "The mission wasn't just compromised, Colonel," Sarah said, her voice steady and cold. "It was sold." She turned, her gaze locking onto Reynolds with the precision of a laser sight. "And the person who sold it is in this store." Every head whipped around to face the crumbling man in the corner. "Hello, Captain Reynolds," she said, her voice like the closing of a tomb. "We need to talk about Operation Nightfall." His denials were pathetic, drowned out by the evidence Sarah presented. She held up the encrypted drive. 3 years is a long time to investigate, James." She played a recording over the store's speakers. Reynolds's voice, unmistakable, giving their position to an insurgent commander. She cast images to the display screens. Reynolds meeting with enemy leaders, his bank accounts suddenly flush with cash. His facade shattered. "I had debts," he screamed. "They were going to kill my family." Sarah's response was merciless. "So you let them kill mine instead?" Johnson had 3 daughters. Blake was 22. They all had families, James. The store had become a courtroom, and the patrons were the jury. As if on cue, a phone buzzed. Sarah answered. "Agent Chun, FBI," a crisp voice announced. "Are you getting the confession?" The final trap snapped shut. Reynolds realized he hadn't just been confronted. He had been expertly played in a federal sting operation. Sirens wailed in the distance as Agent Chen's voice laid out the charges. Treason, conspiracy, and 12 counts of felony murder. As FBI agents entered and cuffed a sobbing Reynolds, he looked at Sarah. "I'm sorry." Her reply was ice. "Tell that to their families." With Reynolds gone, the adrenaline left her, and the weight of 3 years settled on her shoulders. "It's over," she whispered, but Agent Chun approached with a new burden. The corruption went higher, Pentagon officials, senators. They needed someone with her skills, someone everyone thought was dead. They needed a ghost. Sarah looked at the faces around her. Tom, Mike, the other customers, all urging her to rest, telling her she'd earned her peace. But the soldier in her saw the mission wasn't over. She turned to the Barrett rifle display. "I'll take it," she told Tom, pulling out cash. "I pay my own way. Always have." Then she made her choice. "I have conditions," she told Agent Chun. "No more fake deaths. No more shadows. I do this as Sarah Mitchell, publicly." She pulled her Medal of Honor from her pocket and pinned it to her shirt. The ghost was choosing to become flesh again. "The world needs to know heroes are real," she said, her voice ringing with newfound purpose. Mike, humbled and transformed, extended his hand. "It's an honor, ma'am." Sarah shook it firmly. "Just call me Sarah." She picked up her new rifle case and walked toward the door. The crowd parted, this time in respect for the woman, not just the legend. At the door, she turned. "Besides," she said with a small smile, "I'll need ammunition for the Barrett. This is my local gun store now." Sarah Mitchell walked out into the evening, no longer a ghost hiding from the world, but a hero choosing to face it, carrying the weight of yesterday and the hope of tomorrow. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning.